listening to episode 34, chapter 3 of the Daily Growth Discipleship Podcast. I'm Chris Lamberth.
And I'm Josh Havens, and we're on a journey to learn what it means to live a lifestyle of discipleship. We're glad you're joining us and hope that as you set aside this time for God, that He would help you grow today in the everyday moments of life. And today we're continuing our conversation about the 5 steps of creating a lifestyle of discipleship.
But we'll move on to step 3 because step 3 is another big one that we are very passionate about. And this one is walk with someone. And I'd probably say the reason why we're so passionate about this one in particular is because of the role it's played in our own life over the last 10 years or so.
Literally 10 years.
Yeah, and that's crazy to think about. But yeah, in fact, my wife was just asking, he's like, when did you guys first start doing the blog and podcast stuff? And it originally started with Theology in Progress. And I was like, well, I guess technically it had to have started in 2014. Yep. We weren't publishing anything at that time, but they started when you were in Iowa and we were having conversations, me, you, and another one of our friends, Brandon, who worked with us on Theology in Progress.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's when we really started putting stuff down, but I'd go back even before that when we were going through seminary and Bible college. Before that, we spent countless hours sitting together, studying, talking through things, and trying to understand what this stuff was that we were learning, what we were experiencing in our Christian lives. We've got stories of missed opportunities in the everyday moments of life. We've got stories of amazing moments where God met us as just the two of us were talking or we were doing something else. And it's been such an important part of our lives for the last 10 years. And yeah, really, 6 years ago now, we started down the road of trying to help other people see the value in that. Mm-hmm. And in the middle of that, God did some amazing things in our own lives as well. We both joined a pastoral coaching organization called Journey Pastoral Coaching. And one of the emphases in that program is being overdoing and walking with other people. The statistics are something like half the ministers leave the ministry by before the end of 5 years. And it's because of burnout and isolation. Mm-hmm. And really, that's just a reflection of what the Christian life, I think, is like for everyone. You see people leaving the church, you see people leaving the faith, you see people struggling. Maybe they completely shut down and they still just kind of go into cruising. They show up at church, but they're not really trying to live a life of following Christ. These things happen because, I believe, primarily, we're not walking with other people in community. Mm-hmm. And it's not something as simple as you show up and you have nice conversations about the weather. You talk about, oh yeah, work was really tough this week, and that's kind of where the conversation goes. No, this is, when we're talking about walking with someone, it's got to be at this deep level where you see the other person for who they are. They're exposing their faults. They're showing you who they are and all of their dirt and muck, all of their greatness and glory as well. But you see the other person for who they are, and in the middle of that, you offer them the grace that God shows you. Mm-hmm. And there's something incredibly powerful about that. And it's what makes confession to another person so powerful. Yep. It's because in our sin, we tend to think it's shameful, we want to hide and cover it up. But in exposing that and letting it go out into the world around us, making it more real, and having another person say basically what Jesus said in John 8, neither do I condemn you. Now let's keep moving forward.
And also me too.
Yeah.
I experience those same things, and I give you grace.
Yeah, and that reciprocal relationship where grace and love and honesty are flowing in the middle of that relationship, that's, I think, irreplaceable and vital to the Christian life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, we really believe one of the biggest problems with people not being able to walk and live a lifestyle of discipleship is because of that isolation. Is we just feel too closed off and isolated by the church and by others. We look at their lives either at church because we put on the best facade that we can on Sunday mornings, or we look at their lives on Facebook and Instagram and we see them through those filters. And it's only once we get down in the trenches, as it were, with them and get to know them at a much deeper level do we begin to realize that actually they're going through the exact same struggles that we are. We are really in this thing together. And so there's just a powerful thing that happens when we discover that about another person, and yet we're still pursuing the same goal together. And so, like you said, we've seen it play out in our lives time and time again over the last few years. And I wouldn't be here without that relationship. And so,
neither would I.
Anyway, it's very encouraging. So,
we've got some great resources on this too as well. We'll put links to some of the stuff at Journey Pastoral Coaching. And then we've got some great resources actually that we interviewed on the podcast last year about how to start those relationships.
Yep.
Really, they just begin with conversations where you're genuinely interested in another person.
Yeah.
So we've got the episode with Russell for High, and then honestly the stuff with Don Everts.
Yeah.
Having spiritual conversations with other people. His was leaning more toward evangelism and outreach, but at the same time, I think it applies really well to the relationships that we have with each other.
Exactly. Because, we do have, and part of the point is in Don Everett's conversation was that we're afraid of having those spiritual conversations, in particular with people who aren't Christians. And so we have this idea that we're afraid of those conversations. And so, but I feel like we have the same sort of fear within the church.
We do.
We're not comfortable reaching out to somebody and asking them something simple, like maybe what's God doing in your life today? And maybe that's even the cliche one, and we don't want to ask that question, but even that could be very, very powerful. So,
and the crazy thing is what his research found, the research that he did in partnership with Varna, was that people actually feel better about themselves after they've had a spiritual conversation.
Absolutely.
So, go do it. Feel better about yourself today.
Exactly. And give that gift to somebody.
Yeah.
By doing that. So, yeah, you got to walk with somebody. It's imperative.
How can you create a lifestyle of discipleship? Most Christians think discipleship is a program or a few practices thrown in at the beginning or end of the day. But we want to help you create a lifestyle where walking with Jesus throughout the day is not only possible, but natural. And we have a tool that's going to help you do just that. It's called the Daily Growth Journal. It's a guided journal that's going to help you become secure in your identity with God and authentically walk with Him in your daily life. Growing daily in your walk with Christ is possible if you cultivate a lifestyle of discipleship. And the Daily Growth Journal will help you do just that. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Daily Growth Discipleship Podcast. If you like what you've heard today, be sure to give us a review on Apple Podcasts or the podcast player you use. Then share what you've heard with a friend so that they can learn how to create a lifestyle of discipleship too. If you want to stay up to date on everything happening at Daily Growth Discipleship, go to dailygrowthdiscipleship.com and subscribe for free. You can also subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify.